All right, if everybody will take your seats, we'll get started here in about 15 seconds. All right, well, good evening. Welcome to the City of Glendale Council meeting of March 23rd, 2021. This meeting is called to order. We will conduct a roll call vote starting with Councilmember Aldama. If everyone would please signify by saying present. Councilmember Aldama.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Melner. Councilmember Tomachoff.
Present.
Councilmember Turner.
Present.
Vice Mayor.
Here, Mayor, and also may I say, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. You don't have to stop. Okay, Chairman is present, and that's, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. With that, the next two items on our agenda are the invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. Our invocation will be delivered tonight by the President of the Glendale North Stake Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, Mr. David Barton. Gentlemen, if appropriate, would you please stand and also remove your hats? If everyone please stand, join us in the invocation, and then please remain standing, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance.
Our beloved Father in heaven, we are grateful to gather here tonight as we humbly bow ourselves before Thee, mindful of Thy amazing love. We're grateful for Thy Son and our Savior Jesus Christ, that Thou art mindful of us. We're so thankful, Father, for Mayor Weirs and his council as they desire to serve this community, this great city of Glendale. Grateful for their courage and their faith and their desire to do good. We know, Father, that there are many in this community that struggle and suffer and have great challenges. And pray that Thou will bless us as we seek to work together as a community to assist and help meet the needs of those who are struggling. We pray that Thou will guide and direct these council members as they seek to do good, that they have been given many gifts and abilities and many opportunities to serve, and we're grateful for their service. We pray that Thou will open their hearts and minds to the new ways and the many ways that they could unite the community in their efforts to serve one another and strengthen one another and to move this community forward through this pandemic and many other challenges that it faces. We love Thee, Father, and are grateful for the assistance that we receive from Thee and the guidance that Thou hast given. And this we humbly say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, sir. If everyone would please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Turner, if you'd lead us in the pledge, please. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone of the following. This meeting is televised live on the City of Glendale's Facebook and also the YouTube pages, as well as Glendale's own Channel 11. Our meetings are located in the Glendale Civic Center with the audiences seated right next door. We do request that you wear a face mask covering if you're unable to social distance. And for those of you that are seated next door, please be aware that you have a large screen that allows you to see and hear us, and we also have a large screen that allows us to see and hear you. So with that said, if you wish to speak on any item on the agenda, Please complete a golden-colored card, give it to the officer in the room to be given to our clerk, and then that will be passed forward to myself. If you submitted a speaker card and indicated that you wish to speak on an agenda item, I'll wait for you to make your way to the podium in this room. I will be allowing 3 minutes for each speaker tonight on all agenda items. I'd ask that you please keep in mind the citizens' comments section is at the end of each voting meeting, and that's to allow the public to speak about anything that's not on the printed agenda. And I do want to thank all of you for your patience in advance. If I could get approval of the minutes, the consideration of the meetings from March 9, 2020 voting meeting.
Mayor,
Mr. Aldama.
motion to approve the meeting minutes of March 9th, 2021.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Aldama, second from Vice Mayor Hugh. I have no one wishing to change or correct any of those. We have the motion and the second. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, vote nay. Appears you guys have it, do have it. That does carry. We're going to move on to proclamations and awards. And tonight, we do have something, I'm not going to say a little different, a lot different. And that's basically an award, a proclamation that will be given to Judge Finn. I would ask that she and her family work their way up to the front, to my right side, your left side. And then on behalf of the council and the staff, I do want to congratulate Judge Finn on her retirement, thank her for all that she's done for our community and our residents. A couple months ago, it didn't look like we were going to be able to do this because of the COVID-19, and then followed up by my issue. But I can tell you that I'm incredibly honored to be able to do this for you and your family tonight, and the chance that all the folks that have worked with you for the last close to 2 decades get a chance to see you off properly. So with that, I'm going to come up and then I'll read the proclamation and we'll move on. This way and face that way, if you can. Judge, if you'd like to stand right next to that, that'd be perfect, and your husband immediately next to you.
Okay.
Okay, and so what I'm reading is actually here. And so we didn't want you to have to stand there and hold it. If you'll,
I'm going to take your mask off and look at Kirsten.
okay. So the proclamation reads, whereas the vital role of a presiding judge is to perform professional and administrative judicial work in adjudicating cases involving violations of city codes and ordinances and criminal misdemeanor cases. And whereas Judge Elizabeth Art in the late 70s until serving as Glendale's interim presiding judge, betterment of society, Arizona's first city court domestic violence treatment court, a collaborative community domestic violence task force, a supervised
probation, so he was dealing with felons. My son, Jesse Turner, the one that hasn't had a haircut in a year. That's the joke. How did the men end up with all the curls? Jesse's been a county public defender for 15 years, so he also makes his living off of crime. I'll get to the 2 women standing up here in a moment, but the joke is we make our living off of crime. This is my daughter, Sarah Finn Turner. Sarah's the poet, the writer, the lyrical one. She's a supervisor at Puma. Couldn't talk her into law school. And this is Jennifer, who's Jesse's wife, who works in accounting. And there's nothing I could have accomplished as of May, it would be 43 years that I've been a judge. And there's nothing I could have accomplished without the support of my family. Particularly Eddie supporting me every time I'm going off and trying something new and different. The judges from the court are here, and I wanted to just mention them for a moment. And maybe you could just stand for a second when I say your name, John Burkholder. John is the senior judge at the court for a few more days. We're very excited and happy for John. He's been named the presiding judge of Buckeye City Court, and we think that is fantastic, and we know he and his family are excited about it. Judge Manuel Delgado. Manuel is another great success story. He started off as a public defender in our court, and I appointed him as a court hearing officer. He took a little hiatus and came back when the council appointed him as judge. Carla Bastine. Carla's our court hearing officer, who I appointed a year ago. She started off in the prosecutor's office, and then she was a public defender. So in our top leadership, you can see that we have promoted from within. Also, 2 of our 3 line supervisors are promoted from within. We very much, I always talk about the court family, that we're members of a family. And I'm really going to miss seeing them and having contact with them, because I know a little bit about everybody, and some even a lot more than that. And there's 2 that I need to single out. One's Chris Phelps, who's standing in the back. We hired Chris as our court administrator 7.5 years ago. He came to us from Ohio. And I know every presiding judge in the county. I basically know every presiding judge in the state. But I can tell you that Chris and I have a very unique and valued relationship. We are true partners. I mean, they could go to Chris with the scenario and bring it to me, and we would end up with the same resolution. And so I'm really going to miss his support and his partnership leaving the court. And this other person I need to single out is Kathleen Williams. Kathy, stand up. I know you don't want to, but okay. Kathy is known as the Judge Finn Whisperer. If anybody wanted something, they went to Kathy. So what happened in 2013 is the mental health agency said, you need to start a mental health court. We didn't realize we had that many people who are mentally ill on the west side of town. And Kathy was a senior clerk, and I said, okay, Kathy, you and I are going to do a mental health court together. And she said, I don't know anything about mental health court. And I said, I don't either, but we're going to learn together. And, through the years, obviously, both of us have had a significant passion for people who are mentally ill, who are homeless, who are in custody, and work, I think, tirelessly to try to help these people. I'm very fortunate in that I have found my passion being a judge, and when I was with Phoenix, my passion certainly was issues concerning domestic violence. And that didn't stop when I came to Glendale. But in Glendale, I discovered a couple others, and that one of them was the issues of homelessness. So we were one of the first 3 courts to start the homeless court. And then obviously mental health and domestic violence have never gone away from being passions of mine. And I'm truly honored to have served Glendale for 18 years. I wish the best to everyone. We have a new presiding judge, Judge Nick Piazza. I know he and Chris are going to make a great team and keep going forward. And again, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to serve you, and thank you for tonight.
Would the council like to come here and get a photo with Judge Finn with proclamation? We just screwed up ahead. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to our consent agenda items 3 through 8. Items on the consent agenda are routine nature. They've been previously studied by the city council at a workshop session. They are intended to be acted upon in one motion by this council. There are no consent resolutions for Ms. Bauer to read. Do we have any speaker cards on any of the consent items?
No, sir.
Okay. So, with that, we'll proceed on to action items which remain on the consent agenda, and then we'll come back to the items to be heard separately. Is there a motion to approve the action items remaining on the consent agenda?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
could I get clarification? Was there an item pulled on the consent agenda?
I don't show that there was any poll.
Okay, very good. Therefore, I move that we approve consent agenda items 3 through 8.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Melner and a second from Councilmember Tomachoff to approve the recommended action. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it, that motion does carry. Bids and contracts. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item number 9, please?
Authorization to enter into a linking agreement with Elan Tech LLC for moving and relocation services.
And no speaker cards?
No, sir.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Can I get a motion?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I move we approve, well, I'll make it simple. I just move we approve item number 9.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Turner, second from Councilmember Clark to approve the recommended action item. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Oldham. How do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that motion does carry. Moving on to ordinances number 10, ordinance number 021-16.
Ordinance number 021-16, an ordinance of the council of the city of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending chapter 24 motor vehicles and traffic, article 4, specific parking prohibitions of the Glendale City Code as it relates to recreational vehicles.
Speaker cards?
No, sir.
Okay, council members, any motions? Anybody?
Mayor?
Yes, I'm waking up, finally. Mayor, I move we pass and adopt ordinance number 021-16.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Clark, a second from the Vice Mayor to approve the recommended. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I believe I'd like to hear the presentation on this item from,
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. We have Deputy City Manager Rick St. John here to speak to several different ordinances that are on the agenda. Mr. St. John?
Thank you, Mr. Phelps, Mayor, members of the council. The next seven items are changes to our code that have gone through either the Code Review Committee or my code compliance official as recommendations for changes to the code so that we can better enforce the code in our community. Each of these items were discussed at length in workshop, and I will provide a little clarity based on some community input and responses that we've gotten from the community as a result of posting these. So this one, for example, simply changes in Glendale City Code Chapter 2461, the word travel trailer to recreation vehicle. We did get a lot of notice from the community that they weren't happy about being regulated on how they park on private property. I will tell you this amendment only deals with roadways, public roadways, alleys, and streets. It does not deal with private property. And essentially what it says is you cannot park for 48 hours on a public roadway, alley, or street. And then it changes the definition of what a recreation vehicle is to include motorhomes and mini motorhomes, camper trailers, boats, watercraft, on-boat trailers, things of that nature. But this does not limit in any way how people park on private property. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on this code amendment.
yes, as chair of the committee that put this forward. I would urge the council to adopt this. Again, as was stated, this is only for streets, it's not for private property. The private property issue is being addressed and will come before this council at a later date. I would like to just point out, there's one item, because it seemed that we changed travel trailer throughout the ordinance to recreation vehicle. Is that correct?
Mayor, Councilmember Malinar, that is correct.
Okay, there's just one that didn't get changed. It's in the very first paragraph of Section 1, Chapter 24A. It left travel trailer there, so we could perhaps amend that to recreation vehicles as we amend this as well.
Mayor, Councilmember Malinar, I will make note of that.
Yeah, well, I'm reading B, it also has travel trailer there too. Maybe it should be just any place that says travel trailer that gets.
Mayor, we will make that change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. St. John, could you provide clarification what is meant by, I'm looking at the staff report of item number 12, on the roadway side of any vehicle stopped or parked at the edge of the curb or curb of a street? What does that mean?
Mayor, Councilmember Tomalcheff, I'm looking at item number, I'm sorry, you're talking about
On the staff report, there's a number.
Section 2, number 12?
Yep.
Okay. On the roadway side of any vehicle stopped or parked at the edge or curb of a street?
I just don't know what that means.
That is existing language in the code today, and I did not review the existing for recommended changes. So reading that here in front of me, it looks like that may have been cut and paste wrong, perhaps. Like it seems to me there might be something missing from that. The language change that we're proposing is item number 16 under 12, directly under what you're speaking of.
Okay, I was just trying to make sense of it, and I was like, I can't understand what that means. So if somebody said you can't do that, I'd be like, what does that even mean?
Mayor,
so if it's already in the code, then I
Mayor,
guess it's fine.
Councilmember Tomalcheff, I believe it refers to double parking.
Oh,
Now that
okay.
I'm looking at it again, you can't park on the roadway side of any vehicle that's already parked on the street. So if a vehicle's
Oh,
parked
okay.
on a curb, you can't
right.
park on the roadway side of that vehicle. That's double parking.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Mayor, yeah, that's my interpretation of 12 as well. But what I really wanted to say is that I very much appreciate the explanation that in this ordinance tonight, we're not addressing any parking on private property. That was a concern of mine, and I've had feedback from residents on both sides of that concern, and I think it's something that we need to be very considerate in whatever we might do about that. But with that not a part of this particular ordinance, I believe I can support it. Thank you.
Else?
Mayor, I would just ask that, that when we make the motion that we include the amendment to change travel trailer.
Mayor, I will restate the motion for purposes of clarification. I move we approve ordinance O21-16 with the suggested amendments.
Second.
Gerber, is that acceptable?
Mayor, I would ask the presenter, Mr. St. John, if he understands what the amendments are and can incorporate those, then the motion is acceptable.
Mayor, Mr. Gruber, I do understand, and we'll make those adjustments.
Okay, so we do have a motion from Councilmember Clark, a second from Councilmember Tomachoff. Any discussion? Hearing none. We'll conduct a roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Oldham. How do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes nay. Motion does carry. Ms. Barber, can you introduce item number 11, please?
Ordinance number O21-17, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending Chapter 29.1 Residential Rental Property, Article 2, Standards of the Glendale City Code as it relates to heating and cooling requirements.
Mayor, members of the council, this is an amendment to the code adding language providing for minimum requirements for heating and cooling systems in rental properties. The minimum standard for heat is 70 degrees. The minimum standard for an air conditioning unit is 82 degrees, and an evaporative cooler is 86 degrees. The language further defines that a heating unit must be built to be a heating unit. In other words, you couldn't use an oven in your kitchen as a heater for the residents. It has to be specifically made as a heating unit. Otherwise, the language, I will say, has been vetted by the association that kind of governs rental properties for the county, and they agree with the language. It's been adopted by other jurisdictions. This should not be a surprise to anybody in our city.
Did you have any speaker cards?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, questions? We get a motion?
Mayor, question, please.
Good.
Mr. St. John, how will this get to landlords of properties that need to have it, should they not know?
Mayor, Councilmember Aldama, we will do an education campaign starting this spring when this ordinance is in effect 30 days from tonight, assuming it gets voted in, notifying the major apartment complexes that we believe will have an issue first, and then moving towards the smaller complexes and individual rentals.
Mayor, if I may follow up, thank you, Mr. St. John. And then how will this affect our housing authority with the buildings we have? We just implement that as the same?
Mayor, Councilmember Aldama, it will be the same standard for our public housing.
Perfect, thank you.
Can I get a motion?
Mayor, motion to approve item number 11, approval of ordinance number 021-17.
Second.
Motion Councilmember Aldama, second Councilmember Clark to approve the recommended action. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing, seeing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Milner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that motion carries unanimous. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item 12, ordinance 021-18?
Ordinance number O21-18, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending Chapter 25, Nuisances, Article 2, Specific Acts, Omissions, and Conditions, and Chapter 19, Landscaping of the Glendale City Code as it relates to required landscape maintenance.
Mayor, members of the council, there are two changes to talk about here. One in Chapter 25, which deals with grass and/or weeds that grow within the cracks of a sidewalk. The code simply states that grass and/or weed gathering cannot cause a trip hazard. It is language that exists elsewhere in our code. We felt that it needed to be in this section of the nuisance code as well. The second change is with landscape maintenance and right-of-way maintenance, and it really changes the word shall. In other words, the city shall receive responsibility to maintain these areas to may receive responsibility to maintain certain areas. So it deals with the transfer of landscape maintenance on right-of-ways, require them to maintain that section in perpetuity. And with that, I'll answer any questions the council may have.
Mr. St. John, how does this affect right-of-ways?
Mayor, Councilmember Aldama, this really doesn't deal with what we're doing with right-of-ways in communities today. Some right-of-ways are maintained by the homeowner or landowner surrounding that right-of-way. Some are maintained by the city. This doesn't written today. It is the homeowner's responsibility to maintain the sidewalk in front of their homes. But the way the code reads is the grass has to be at least 6 inches in height, I think. It may be 3 inches, but there's an inch limit. And what we're saying in the code review and in this amendment is that it really shouldn't be about the aesthetics. It should be about whether it creates a safety hazard. So when people are in wheelchairs or using walkers or babies and strollers, there shouldn't be obstructions caused by someone's grass on their own property growing onto a city sidewalk that makes it less convenient for someone to use the sidewalk or dangerous for them to use the sidewalk. So that is really the suggested change. It's not changing responsibility. Today, it's the homeowner's responsibility. And if this is adopted by council, it will be the homeowner's responsibility still. We'll just be addressing it from a safety standpoint instead of an aesthetic standpoint.
Connor, you had your hand up.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to say, is that we're not really changing who's responsible for maintaining. I think most people in the city recognize that property up to the curb, typically for maintenance purposes, other than when, you know, if a sidewalk cracks, that's different. The city is responsible for replacing that sidewalk. But the homeowners are responsible for maintaining their front yard and the way it looks. And from the code committee perspective, what we're trying to do really as we are bringing forth these ordinances is encouraging the citizens of the city to take responsibility for some of the issues that we're finding around the city where they're not being taken care of. And this one happens to fall into the category of a hazard. And we've been advised that those are the kind of things that we need to concentrate on, and so we have in the code committee that you'll see many things that we talk about have to come back to a hazard. For example, the palm fronds that we discussed, that have to do with a fire hazard. And this is a tripping hazard. And so we're approaching it from that point of view, and it is very legally enforceable, and I think it'll help people recognize that they are responsible when that grass grows up in their crack in the sidewalks, that they need to take and weed eat it, do whatever they need to do to put weed killer in it. I know we all have that problem. I don't know if about anybody else, but there's always grass and weeds growing up in the cracks in my sidewalk, in my driveway, and elsewhere. But I regularly spray it with weed killer, or I weed eat it and keep it down so it doesn't grow up. And that's kind of what we're trying to accomplish here.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. St. John, I just want to make sure I understand what you said. So it's section 25-21G still says, shall allow thereon grass or weeds to exceed height over 6 inches when so the 6 inches applies to blight, and then there's no height that applies to a hazard, a tripping hazard? Or how does the 6 inches apply?
Vice Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Tommelchaff, it would apply when the grass that's growing does not constitute a trip hazard, but is still a blight issue because of the height of the grass.
Okay, Mayor, so it's two different issues. One is basically an aesthetic issue. The height issues more weeds growing anywhere over 6 inches, whether it's in, and the other one, it could be any height. I mean, there's no minimum. That's my only concern is that somebody's, a neighbor's going to say, you've got a couple little weeds in the crack of your sidewalk, and how sometimes neighbors don't always enjoy each other's company. There's no minimums, there's no standard, I guess, is what I'm trying to understand for the trip hazard.
Mayor, Councilmember Tommelchaff, what we're envisioning are those clumps of grass that are thick and grow thick and constitute, if you were to hit them with your feet wouldn't naturally move through them, whereas a 6-inch weed standing alone, if you kick it with your foot just naturally moves through it. But if you kick a mound of grass that's grown up with dirt and grass and weed perhaps, and you kick it with your toe, it's the stubbing motion that causes you to trip. And so those are the issues that we would be addressing with this new text.
Mayor?
Well, yeah, I guess for now.
Okay. Again, along those same lines, if someone is called out because of a tripping hazard, the code enforcement folks know that when they cite someone, that could end up in court. And what judge is going to say, oh, you had one weed growing up and you called it a tripping hazard? No, that's not going to fly. And I think we're going to be reasonable. I think code's going to be reasonable. And the neighbor may want somebody called out, and there's a weed growing in his crack, in the crack, and he wants to call code and say, well, it's illegal. Well, if it's not a tripping hazard, and the code looks at it and says, that's not a tripping hazard, then he's not gonna get cited. And so you have to put something, you have to say something. And if you put a height on it, I mean, you could have grass, if it were 4 inches wide and only an inch tall, that could be a tripping hazard. And so it's hard to put, I think, a definition of how high a tripping hazard becomes. I think it's a judgment call.
Mayor, if I could just out of curiosity, I mean, I feel like, I mean, I understand that. Does the code discuss, because I think rocks, especially, you know, on the sidewalk with kids using skateboards and things like that, you know, and there are, you know, that's really even more dangerous because that can flip people over. But I'm just curious if the code committees address that. It's probably
If I may, we could add that to our list. I don't anticipate us doing that, but
we only
we
have
could
6 months
definitely-
left, so, okay, I was just curious, thank you.
Mayor, thank you, Mayor. So I have two questions, Mr. St. John. So, in the case that there's a property whose front yard is lawn or turf, grass, and then the sidewalk, and then the right-of-way belongs to the city, maintained by the city, and it too is turf, whose property is the grass in the crack now?
Mayor, Councilmember Aldama, I believe if we're maintaining the right-of-way, that our right-of-way maintenance crew would deal with any trip hazards on the sidewalk just because they're there dealing with the right-of-way maintenance. But technically, the homeowner is responsible for the property up to typically the curb or where the street meets the property.
Yes, I have a problem with that. Thank you for answering. I have a problem with that just for that example that I've given. And I'll say that historically in the district I serve, we have not done a really good job in taking care of right-of-ways. However, our team has done a really good job in improving those, so we've got some really nice right-of-ways now, and they've all become granite now with plants and foliage rather than grass. But that's, with all due respect, that's not a good answer because you're just saying now that it's becoming the homeowner when it probably is the city's. But then the second question is, I read alleyways. So if a backyard has turf and there's grass growing within the alleyway, is that the homeowner's responsibility too?
Mayor, Councilmember Aldama, I'll look to our code official, Tim Bowling, to help answer that question because I'm not 100% sure.
So what it reads here, if I may, furthermore, no person owning or occupying any property fronting on any street or alleyway. So I just want to know if a backyard that has turf and there's grass growing in cracks in the asphalt in the alley, is that the homeowner's responsibility?
But Mayor, Councilmember Aldama, I got the nod from Mr. Bowling that it is the responsibility of the homeowner. I used to live with an alleyway behind my house, and I was responsible for maintenance of that alleyway to keep it clean of debris and allow city vehicles that needed to travel that alleyway access to the alleyway. So, for example, I couldn't put things in the alleyway that obstructed the alleyway or cause my property to create an obstruction in that alleyway for pedestrian, bicycle, or vehicle use.
Mayor, if I may, that doesn't make sense. I just gave you an example if a property has turf in their backyard. What if they don't? Still the responsibility to go spray those weeds even if they're 6 inches or not? That doesn't make sense to me at all. I couldn't support that. Thank you.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
St. John, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. Prior to our micromanaging and discussing weeds to death this evening, 99% of the people in this town have no idea that it's their responsibility to take care of the cracks in their sidewalk. It has always been their responsibility, and it will continue to be their responsibility. We do not change who is responsible for the maintenance of the sidewalk in front of your house. That stays the same. The only difference is we are saying your responsibility is to maintain the sidewalk. When weeds or grass become a safety hazard on that portion of the sidewalk that's in front of your house, it's your responsibility to take care of them. After we pass this ordinance revision, 99% of the people in Glendale still will have no clue that it is their responsibility. I dare say, and I'm being facetious, but I would guess and say there are maybe 10 complaints a year on weeds in sidewalks, if that. This is not an overarching issue. The changes are minimal. I would suggest that we move forward and pass the changes as presented. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I would echo Councilman Clark, or Council Member Clark's comments. We're not changing who's responsible for the sidewalk. We're changing the height at which the tripping hazard needs to be addressed. Tripping hazards will need to be addressed. If the council chooses to not have the homeowner do it, as they have been responsible for the grass here, then the council will need to budget for it and take it on as a city responsibility all over town. I don't think my neighbors, my residents, are going to be particularly excited about the city taking on that responsibility when 90% of the people in my district take care of it themselves already. And we're just providing the opportunity for code enforcement to be able to inform residents that the problem exists and it's their responsibility to take care of it. And I think that's probably going to fix the problem in virtually every circumstance. So I would encourage council members to support the work of the Code Committee and approve this. Thank you.
Else? I personally think that we're turning ourselves into an HOA. We have HOAs that handle stuff like this. I don't think the city should be an HOA. Councilmember Clark spoke that she thinks there's probably no more than 10 complaints a year. I agree with her. I think that's probably correct, but is this a solution looking for the problem? I think it is. I think we're overreaching. I think these are the type of things that we shouldn't be concentrating on. I think there's a lot more, much more important issues that we should be working on. I wouldn't want your job, I can tell you that. And I have told you that already, haven't I?
Yes.
But with that, we'll go ahead and, if there's no other discussion, we'll take a roll call vote and see how it goes. So with that, Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Hey.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Milner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote? And the chair votes no. It does pass. So, moving on. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item number 13, ordinance 021-19, please?
Ordinance number O21-19, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending Chapter 25 nuisances, Article 2, specific acts, omissions, and conditions of the Glendale City Code as it relates to feeding pigeons on public property and holiday decor.
Mayor, members of the council, these are two additions to the nuisance code. These are not amendments, they are additions. The first was from a council item of special interest on the banning of feeding of pigeons on public property. It is in the code, as we discussed in workshop, a civil offense punishable by a fine of not less than $50 and not more than $150. The second portion is holiday decorations. It's mirrored language from the city of Peoria. This came through the Code Review Committee. And the one change that we made from the city of Peoria's adopted language, City of Peoria says you have 60 days that you can keep decorations in place. We're saying 30 days prior to the holiday being celebrated to 30 days post-holiday being celebrated. So it is a 60-day period, but it's a designated time period so that it won't continue to shift with the 60 days starting only when it's first observed by a code official. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions on either addition.
Questions? Okay, thank you. We have any speaker cards?
No, sir.
We get a motion?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I move that we adopt item number 13, ordinance 21-19.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Milner, a second from Councilmember Tomachoff to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Milner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Nay.
Okay, I'm going to explain my vote. I think if we're going to make it to where you can't feed pigeons, we need to take the statue down in front of the library. Seems like it's sort of encouraging people to feed the pigeons when you got a guy standing out there feeding pigeons. That was tongue-in-cheek. Obviously, it wasn't that funny because not that many people laughed. But with that said, I do have a problem with the 30 days prior to for holidays. I understand there are people that leave their lights up all year long. I do have a problem with that, but I think if somebody wants to put their Christmas lights up right after Halloween, I certainly don't have a problem with that. This isn't going to allow that, so I'm going to be a no vote. This does pass. So moving on to ordinance 021-20, item number 14.
Ordinance number O21-20, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending Chapter 24, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Article 4, Specific Parking Prohibitions, and Chapter 25, Nuisances of the Glendale City Code as it relates to viewing city code violations.
Mayors, members of the council, there are several sections of our code that deal with where a violation can be viewed by an inspector or senior inspector or any other official with the city enforcing the code. Currently, it states that it has to be viewed from a public roadway or alleyway, and we're recommending, and through workshop, got consensus from council to recommend that the violations be viewed from beyond the boundaries of the lot, which essentially means that an inspector can enter onto someone's private property when invited to view a violation on another property. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
St. John, I want to clarify a conversation you and I had today on this particular subject, and you made it, I believe you made it abundantly clear, but I want to clarify that I was clear. How's that? That this is not visible in somebody's backyard. If there's a backyard and a side yard and a front yard, and there's a fence that separates the front yard from the backyard, even if you can see into the backyard, this does not affect that. Is that correct?
Mayor, if I may, you're referring to section 25-21 subsection E that states no person shall place and or store furniture except furniture designed and placed for outdoor use, household equipment, cardboard, debris, or other similar materials such as bottles, glasses, cans, pieces of scrap metal, wood, metal articles, paper, plastic, boxes, tires, vehicle parts, other such materials or items in the front or side yards. So if you have those items behind a screened wall or fence in your backyard, that section would not apply. This section applies to side yards, which are in front of your backyard fencing, whether that's a chain link or block wall, to the side of your house, behind the front of the house, and everything else from the front of the house to the curb is considered front yard. That section deals with the visible side yard and the front yard. It does not deal with the backyard.
Okay, and then I want to be extremely clear because you'd said both screened and then you said chain link. It can be chain link that is just chain link only without a netting where it's totally visible through. And what's in the backyard is in the backyard, correct?
Mayor, that is correct for this section of the code. There are other provisions in the code about parking other instruments or other debris in the backyard that says it has to be screened when it's on the side yard.
Okay. Okay, other questions?
Yeah, Mayor Shop, it was mentioned that if the code enforcement person gets
An aye vote. And we'll go back to Councilmember Aldama. How do you vote?
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to explain my vote. Yeah, after reading this and after Mr. St. John, your iteration of clarity there and of the ordinance, I'm okay to move forward, and I vote aye.
Okay, so that item number 14 does pass. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item number 15, ordinance 02121?
Ordinance number O21-21, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending Chapter 25 nuisances, Article 2, specific acts, omissions, and conditions of the Glendale City Code as it relates to vacant or abandoned buildings.
Mayor, members of the council, in 2017, Mr. Phelps, the city manager, signed guidelines for the securing of abandoned and/or vacant properties. And in that document, it states that polycarbonate material must be used to secure broken windows and/or openings, doors, things of that nature. This text amendment simply mirrors that language. It's been in practice since 2017 when signed by Mr. Phelps. We have not received any complaints from any property owners about this change. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from anybody? Okay, do we have any speaker cards on this one?
No, sir.
Can I get a motion, please?
Yes, Mayor. I move we pass and adopt ordinance number 021-21.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Clark, a second from Vice Mayor. We'll conduct a roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Aldama. How do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Milner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I'm going to be a no vote on this one. So it does pass. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item number 16, ordinance 021-22?
Ordinance number O21-22, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending Chapter 25 nuisances, Article 2, specific acts, omissions, and conditions of the Glendale City Code as it relates to palm fronds.
Mayor, members of the council, in 2014, we took a case forward to our city court that was denied by the prosecuting attorney based on the language that exists in our city code today. This change was meant to clean up that language so that it is an enforceable code. The change really deals with who's responsible for the palm tree on the property. The old text kind of was ambiguous about who is responsible. This cleans it up, makes it clear that the person living in the residence or having control over the residence is responsible for the palm tree. The other change was a height requirement. It used to say 7 feet from the ground. Building safety and all our other codes recommend 10 feet. And so we changed the language so that it's 10 feet from the ground or any other combustible other than other fronds growing from the same tree. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Seeing none. Do you have any speaker cards?
Sure.
Thank you. Can we get a motion for ordinance 021-22?
Yes, Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance number O21-22.
Second.
A motion from Councilmember Tomachoff, second from Councilmember Clark to approve the recommended action. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Claim my vote, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'd prefer that the height be greater than 10 feet, and we've discussed that in our workshop. It is better than what it was before, and so I will vote in favor of it. I vote aye. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Milner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion does carry. Moving on to resolutions. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item 17, resolution R21-15?
Resolution number R21-15, a resolution of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing and directing the entering into of a pre-annexation development agreement with Cowley Management LLC regarding annexation, zoning, infrastructure, city services, and city fees for a development known as Falcon Park 303.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report this evening is Brian Friedman, our Director of Economic Development.
Phelps. Good evening. This is a request for City Council to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a pre-annexation development agreement regarding certain fees between the City of Glendale and Cowley Management LLC. Falcon Park 303 is a new 80-acre industrial park on the north side of Camelback Road at 152nd Avenue. Though this parcel is within the city's municipal planning area, it is not required to annex and is doing so voluntarily. The annexation application has begun and is submitted to our planning department and will proceed pending the outcome of the requested pre-annexation development agreement this evening. At full build-out, this 80-acre development will include 4 industrial and commercial buildings totaling nearly 1.2 million square feet, generating hundreds of new jobs. This project will provide substantial one-time revenues and will be a net positive ongoing annual revenue source for the city. The developer is required to pay police, fire, libraries, parks and recreation, development impact fees. The developer will also pay the transportation development impact fee, with the exception of a credit for construction of an additional travel lane in Camelback Road, which benefits the entire region. The public benefits anticipated to accrue to the city from this development are substantial relative to any economic incentive granted as part of this pre-annexation development agreement. Maricopa County approved a military compatibility permit in 2020, which limits the property to commercial and industrial uses. If annexed into the city of Glendale, the uses allowed will be consistent with the military compatibility permit. There are no direct expenses to the city. This development agreement will result in the city waiving up to $843,000 in city plan review and permit fees related to the design and construction of buildings on the site within 3 years of the execution of the agreement. Once again, this fee waiver does not include development impact fees. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question for you. The property immediately to the south of Camelback, is that Goodyear?
Yes, it is,
Okay,
Mayor.
and that additional lane that you said is going to be necessary, is Goodyear in support of that additional lane?
Mayor and Council, with a lot of just negotiations headed by our city manager's office, I believe they are now in compliance and agreement with that, yes.
Oh, perfect, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We have any speaker cards?
No, sir.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for resolution R21-15, item number 17?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
motion to approve item number 17, approval of resolution number R21-15.
Second.
Have a motion from Councilmember Aldama, second from Councilmember Tomachoff to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clerk, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I'm tickled that we're getting some more growth. Congratulations, welcome Glendale. Okay, new business, moving on to item number 18, ordinance 021-23.
Ordinance number 021-23, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending Chapter 13, City Court, Article 1, in general of the Glendale City Code as it relates to compensation of judicial officers.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Presenting this item will be our presiding judge, Nick DiPiazza. I see he's in the adjacent room. Appears to be on his way.
He's coming. You can take your mask off if you need to. Get your breath.
Thank
You're up, sir.
There is a proposal for an amendment to the existing ordinance which governs the compensation of judicial officers. This amendment addresses 3 issues and achieves 3 goals. Number 1, it confirms the authority of the council to set the compensation of all judicial officers, that's judges and hearing officers. Number 2, it delinks the compensation of judges and hearing officers from the compensation of the presiding judge. That's the state of the current ordinance. And number 3, it grandfathers, if you will, it protects the compensation of currently sitting judges and hearing officers in the city at this time. Subject to questions, essentially that is the purpose and intent of the amendment.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Seeing none, this is one of the easy ones that makes sense. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we have any speaker cards?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. So could I get a motion for ordinance 021-23, item number 18?
Yes, Mayor. I move we approve item 18, ordinance number 2123.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember, Vice Mayor Hugh, second from Councilmember Clark to approve the recommended action. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll conduct a roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Aldama. How do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, I'm going to go back to you. Your mic was off.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Hugh voted aye. The chair votes aye. The motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, request for future workshop and executive session. Can I get a motion for such an animal?
Yes, Mayor. I move that we hold a special budget workshops at the Civic Center, 5750 West Glen Drive, on the following dates and times. Tuesday, March 30th, 2021 at 9 a.m., Tuesday, April 6th, 2021 at 9 a.m., Thursday, April 8th, 2021 at 9 a.m. That we hold a visionary retreat on Friday, April 2nd, 2021 at 9 a.m. at the Civic Center, 5750 West Glen Drive. That we hold the next regularly scheduled City Council workshop on Tuesday, April 13th, 2021 at 12:30 p.m. at the Civic Center, 5750 West Glen Drive, to be followed by an executive session pursuant to ARS 38-421.03.
Second.
Most have heard you talk tonight.
A lot tonight.
Okay, I have a motion from the Vice Mayor, a second from Councilmember Clark. All in favor, please vote aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it, the motion does carry. Council comments and suggestions. Councilmember Aldama, have you any?
Yes, just an announcement. Ocotillo residents, the City of Glendale's Facebook Live event that will discuss the impact of small cell and 5G technology will take place this upcoming Thursday, March 25th at 10 a.m. Again, the Facebook Live event is scheduled for March 25th at 10 a.m., and the event will also be streamed on Channel 11. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I wish to congratulate Judge Finn on her retirement. She has been an asset to the City of Glendale and worked tirelessly to improve our court and make it one of the best in the state. We wish her well in her retirement. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Milner.
I'd just like to echo Councilmember Clark's sentiments regarding the judge. Congratulations to her, and wish her good well. And again, Mayor, welcome back.
Councilmember Tomachoff.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to welcome you back and glad to see your face sitting up here this evening.
Councilmember Turner.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, the whole council welcomes you back instead of me sitting over there, Mayor. So I'm glad you're there.
Hey, and I have to tell you, it's been overwhelming for me with my situation. I'm not exaggerating when I say hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people through text messages, emails, stopping at the house, dropping food off. It's been so overwhelming that you really, in my case, I really struggled with that. I'm not used to asking anybody for help, certainly not used to accepting help, and an awful lot of people showed up. I think if all of us were honest with ourselves, at least one time in our lives, we all sit there and wonder, the day that we die, will anybody show up to our funeral? And I think all of us have thought that and wondered that, and I can tell you, I think there's a pretty good chance somebody may show up to mine. The amount of people that showed up when I didn't die was just amazing, and I don't want that to sound quirky or anything else, but you really truly, in what we do, everybody in this room, we touch people's lives every day in so many different ways. It's really hard for all of us to understand the difference that we truly make in people's lives. And when something happens and people start showing their support, it is overwhelming. It's majorly humbling for me. So for everyone, all the emails, the text messages, the concerns, the stopping by, the leaving things at the door, I just can't thank you enough. It's been quite the deal for me and my wife both. So with that, I want to thank everyone for your prayers, for your concerns. I'm not 100%, as you can probably figure out. We should have been done 20 minutes ago, but I can't talk as fast as I used to, but I'm working on it. But with that, I do again want to thank all of you so much for your prayers. Thank you. So we're going to move on to our citizens' comments. Next on the agenda is just that. The council makes the opportunity available to citizens to bring information and business before this council that's not included on our printed agenda. Mr. Deibler, I know you're over there if you want to work your way over here. Our council can only act on matters that are on the printed agenda, but we may refer the matter to the city manager for follow-up. If you're unable to speak from the podium, let us know. We'll bring a microphone to you. I have one speaker card, and it's Mr. Deibler. I've seen him working his way over here. So, Kirsten, if you can get him in here, he's the only thing separating us from dinner right now. Mr. Deibler, if you'll take the podium there, you got 3 minutes, sir.
Hello, I am James Deibler. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. There were a lot of Glendale residents concerned about the school district shutting down 5 public schools due to low enrollment and competition from charter school. The 5 public schools within Glendale Elementary School Districts are important for children to learn and grow closer to their home. My idea is for Glendale Elementary School Districts to sell 5 public schools over to the city of Glendale and lease them back to the school district for 15 years in order to balance the budget. The state of Arizona and the city of Glendale are doing an excellent job on COVID-19 vaccines to make sure individuals are getting vaccinated without going to the hospital. I am glad Arizona lowered age requirements for getting COVID-19 vaccines from age 55 to 16. Finally, I remind Glendale residents to wear face masks because it helps save lives. This will help to avoid deaths within the state of Arizona. I congratulate Judge Flynn for the successful retirement from the Glendale City Courts. Thank you for the time and consideration.
Thank you. Okay, there being no further business before the council tonight, I'd like to thank everyone for attending tonight's meeting. If there's no objection from this council, this meeting is adjourned.